Brian Steele's trying to align him with some very, very notable artists, crossover artists, pop artists, to really legitimize the fact that he is an A-level artist that is about his business. I think this whole cross-examination is really about just highlighting the kind of businessman he is, how he does have a clothing company, how he's selling merchandise, and really the commercialization of rap music. I think that's what he's trying to lay the foundation for, and that's why we're seeing all of this being brought up. I mean, not everyone gets to collaborate with Elton John. This is a legendary icon, right?
Right.
So he wants Young Thug, Jeffrey Williams' name in the eyes of the jury to be exactly on that Elton John level. You know, this is not a street guy, you know, a gangster rapper. This is someone that has ascended into working with A-level artists like Rihanna, like Post Malone, like, you know, like Elton John. And that's really what he's trying to identify. That's really the lane that he's trying to paint Young Thug in at this point.
We have DGG from YouTube. And the question is, how hard is RICO to prove? Mina, I'm going to get your take on that. We were talking about RICO. You know, RICO case, how hard is it to prove?
So I'm not an attorney. I don't know how hard it is to prove, but I do know that RICO allows you to try a whole bunch of people together, right? And all you really need to prove is conspiracy. And it can just be that one charge. But what is conspiracy? It could be, I thought about it, I was hanging around you, I knew you were doing it, and now I'm not speaking up. All of that can be being an accomplice, being a conspiracy to the crime. If you actually read the counts, a lot of it is conspiracy to commit or violate the RICO Act. So I think that because they wrapped it up in a RICO and it wasn't just separate charges, and because they're all together, I think that if they do a good job of proving their case that YSL is in fact a criminal gang, and that the individuals on trial actually committed these crimes in furtherance of the gang, I think you can kind of just tack on conspiracy to just about anyone, and that's really what the scary part is.
Right.
The context around the messages matters. So in the context of this message, this individual is reaching out, asking if Mr. Demmons is good after he's been tagged in multiple social media posts about this drive-through, this shooting. And Mr. Demmons responds very succinctly, "I did that." Shh.
So the state is basically saying that Melly confessed to this, Mina. So what are your thoughts about that message?
That was the one surprising thing that I think was probably the strongest point that she made. Up until that point, I felt like a lot of the evidence that she said that they had was circumstantial and would not prove beyond the reasonable doubt that Melly created the murder. I think that one message is probably the strongest thing that they have, that is some sort of, according to them, an admission of guilt. I want more on that. Who was this message to? How do we know they were talking about that? They have to prove that. And I think on the other end of it is that being the only piece of evidence that they might have that some sort of way admits some guilt, but they have no gun. So there's not a gun that's been found. They have no video of them in this alleged alley that the prosecution is claiming, you know, they drove through. There was no cameras. There's no evidence of tying Melly to this crime except for this one message. So if this is what they have to convince the jurors beyond the reasonable doubt that this very vague message is about the shooting and is in some way some admission of guilt. And in my perspective, I think it's not enough.
Okay, so let me ask you this, Mina. There is an allegation that Drake has some sort of affiliation with gangs. There's one individual named Hassan Ali, who I think he has an affiliation with. He once claimed on a podcast that he was Drake's shooter. Walk me through if any of this has merit.
Can I just say this? There are a lot of allegations on social media. What I will say is when you're an artist and you're moving around in different neighborhoods, you need protections of certain people, right? Sometimes some of these people, we don't know their past. We don't know, what they've done, what their affiliations are. But the fact is, this isn't just in relation to Drake. Most big artists will tell you, if you're moving around and going to different areas of the world, you're the top rapper, someone's going to try to either possibly rob you or hurt you. There's so much that can happen while you're in someone else's city. So since the beginning of rap, 50 years, hip hop is celebrating their anniversary. There have been artists that have affiliated themselves with certain people to protect them when they are in certain circles. And affiliation does not mean you are a part of what that person is doing. So I hate when people do that, because Drake is from Canada. His mother's a teacher. Um, he may be a rapper and has a lot of money, but his upbringing was not that of a street guy here. So,
Clearly, you didn't watch Degrassi, which is
Right.
such a tough show. I mean,
Hello.
honestly. But Mina,
To be honest, I gave this no merit until the judge allowed for a deposition. The second he allowed for the deposition, I'm like, oh, wow, this is serious. I just don't understand where this trial is going. You have members that are being accused of murder. They're on tape. There's social media evidence of them flashing money. And then you say it's Drake?